Hey everybody, this is Chris with Overclockersclub. It's time for another graphics card. So today from ASUS, we've got the RTX 5070, part of the TUF gaming series. It's got the standard 12 gigabytes of GDDR7 memory, supports the, of course, ASUS Aura Sync, and we've got all kinds of other goodies on the back here. Actually, I will tilt the box here so we don't get all the glare from the lights above. Okay, so looking at the information on the back, let's see, the key features: dedicated ray tracing cores, dedicated tensor cores, NVIDIA DLSS, of course, game ready and NVIDIA Studio drivers, NVIDIA app, NVIDIA broadcast, NVIDIA G-Sync. Here is the standard Founders Edition 5070, and we'll see how much smaller this is compared to this ASUS card here in a moment, but pretty much the guts that are in here are inside this card. Everything that makes a 5070, but we've got some extras, some little things that ASUS does to sort of sweeten the pot. Okay, let's look at some of the details here. We've got durability, we've got military graded chokes, MOSFETs and capacitors, phase change GPU thermal pad, protective PCB coating, and dual ball fan, ball bearings in the fan that help ensure the durability. And again, these are the extra things that, not saying that the Founders Edition card is bad in any way, but we've got some extras here that make this card perhaps a little more desirable. Okay, cooling, we've got ASUS Max Contact Design. Let's see. So we've got a better heat sink for better heat transfer. We've got Auto Extreme technology, automated manufacturing process that helps ensure reliability. Don't know exactly what that means, but looks like I've got a steel bracket to increase rigidity, and let's see, firm mounting. Okay, so that's what you want. You don't want any movement there. Software, we've got the usual GPU Tweak 3. We'll look at that in a little bit. I like playing with this here. You can sort of do some custom fan curves. Let's see, of course, this is just the standard stuff here from NVIDIA. And then we've got, looks like 1, 2, 3 display ports, 2 HDMI ports, which is good. And there's what the card looks like. So now we can get out of the box. And I actually opened the box earlier and I took it out of the bag so we don't have all the crinkly bag stuff going on. But there's the card. And if we look down in here, we can see, set the card off to the side. We've got some documentation here from ASUS. It's sort of stashed down there in the bottom of the box. Quick start guide. And you look at that and say, wow, look how thick that is. That's because it's in 100 different languages. Quick start guide is pretty simple. Basically, plug it in and turn on your computer, which of course is a quick start. Okay, this is showing you how to make sure your power connector is completely engaged. I'll show that a little later and why that's important. Thank you. Okay, graphics card holder. I'll show that here in a little bit. Certificate of reliability. This goes over some of the details of what goes into this card. And again, your AIB or add-in board manufacturers, they all add their flavor to it. Here's your dual in, one out connector to supply power to the card. This is the little support to help hold up the end of the card. You can put this in your case and sort of prop up the back of the card so it's not cantilevered out there. Some sort of a Velcro, maybe for cable wrap, cable ties. And then a cool little, this is magnetic, a little TUF gaming badge that you can attach to something metallic. Pretty nice box that it comes in. Very well well padded inside, so that should help protect your card while it is in shipping. Okay, so the card itself here, and I took some of the plastic off already, but it has all this plastic on all of the surfaces to help protect the card. So let me get all that peeled off here. I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, seems like no matter how much I think I've got all of the plastic removed, there's always one piece that I seem to miss. And I think all that's left is what's on the little fans here. They've got little tabs that you can pull off. Okay, that should be it. So here's what the card looks like. There's your power connector. We have a little tiny switch back here, and if you can read the text there, there's P mode and Q mode. One is a performance mode, one is quiet mode. It basically adjusts the fan speed so that your fans aren't running all the time, keeps things quiet. Performance mode, of course, keeps your fans running to keep things cool. Now for size comparison, again, this is the standard stock Founders Edition 5070, and you can see the version here from ASUS is quite a bit bigger. It's taller. It's pretty much bigger in every dimension. It's a little wider. It's a 2-slot card, but it's really 2.5, maybe 3-ish is what it's actually going to take up, even though it's only 2 slots there. And if we compare it sideways here, you can see again there's a considerable difference. So the only reason that would be a problem is if you've got a very small case and you need to make sure ahead of time that your new card here dimensionally will fit in the case. Now the other thing your AIB people, add-in board manufacturers such as ASUS provide, usually they have cooling solutions that are far superior. Not that the ones, again, from the Founders Edition are necessarily bad, but we've got some big improvements here in cooling with a much, much larger heat sink, triple fans instead of 2, and then we've got a lot more opportunity for the ventilation to take effect and really help get the hot air away. So like I said, the back of the card here, you've got air that can be pushed out, bottom of the card, end of the card there, we've got venting. This side is all open, and a little bit back here. So keeping it cool should not be a problem. Now here we have a 4070. This is from last year, and you can see it follows a similar design style with the triple fans, but you can see the 4070 from last year is slightly smaller than the 5070 from this year. The card's a little longer. The height is about the same. It might be slightly taller if I got these in the same plane. And the width appears to be about the same also, but you can see the card is slightly larger. And I can tell you that one way they did that is the fans. So what they did is they went from 3, let's see, those are about 90 millimeters to those are about 100 millimeters. So we increased the fan size by 10 millimeters on the diameter, which explains why the card is a little longer. It's pushed out a little bit on the back because we've got bigger fans. And with the larger fans, you've got some more real estate there for a slightly larger heatsink. And then looking at the business end, we've got 1, 2, 3 display ports and 2 HDMI ports. And if we compare that to last year, you can see we've got a little different layout, but the same availability of 2 HDMI and 3 display ports. We just got the HDMI ports down here on the bottom of the 5070. I do like the design of the card though. It sort of has an industrial look to it. It's not terribly fancy, but I like that. Sort of utilitarian. You don't have the usual RGB stuff all over it. You don't need it, right? So That's one of the nice things about the TUF series. Gets the job done without all the extra fancy stuff. Okay, so now I'm getting ready to do some benchmarking. First thing I usually like to do is get into the NVIDIA app, go down here to System and then Performance, move the little slider over and it will do the automatic tuning. Sometimes this takes 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour or so, depending upon the card you've got. But that will custom tune the card. Hopefully you get the most performance that you can. And up here in the Tweak 3, I've got the overclock mode enabled since this is the overclock edition of this card. And we're going to do a little bit of stress testing and we'll look at the wattage that the card uses under a load. The little riser there that you see is the NVIDIA PCAT. What that does is it allows me to see in real time how many watts the card is using. Here's a little output here you can see in real time, and then it cycles over to the voltages. It's got 3 channels, so we've got one channel here that comes in. I'm using the center channel. So this is from the power supply and this goes out to the card. So again, we can see exactly how many watts the card is using, and we've got the ASUS, having trouble with my focus today, my ASUS FurMark running in the background. This is the PCAT software, so we can see exactly we're averaging about 294 watts, so just under 300 watts under a load. And then the FurMark output here, after we've done some of the testing, you can see 18,437 points at 307 frames per second for the RTX 5070. And this is nice because it gives me a nice reference point for the performance of the card. And then we stop the FurMark and you can see we immediately drop down to idle temperatures and power usage. So you can see actually max we used 334 watts. We averaged about close to 300. You can see it's dropping now because the average is taking the idle into effect. But if we go ahead and reset, now you can see we're using 15, 16 watts as the card is now just idling along. And speaking of the FurMark ROG here, this is really a nice little tool. Of course, it allows you to stress test your GPU, benchmark it, different resolutions. You can adjust settings. Again, you can adjust your resolutions based on your system. We've got different graphics tests up here that we can do. We've got GPU Sharp. Now this is nice. This gives you all kinds of detailed information about your GPU. Things that you probably didn't know about your GPU. OpenGL, we can look at the information there. And again, for the average user, this probably won't be anything that makes a lot of sense. But it even looks at your my onboard Intel graphics embedded on the CPU. But like I said, for most people, this is massive overkill, but it is useful if you need that level of detail. CPU burner, this will stress test your CPU. So we can look over here, and as soon as I hit start, you can see CPU usage goes to 100%. We can look at the temperature over there. It should start climbing. And I can already hear the fans over here on my radiator. They're starting to spool up. So another nice little tool if you want to do some stress testing on your system. And then down here at the bottom, and it's kind of hard to see, a little tiny print. Way down here, if you click on the home page, it takes you to the FurMark home page. You can download the latest. I click on the Open Terminal. This opens a command prompt over here if you need that. It's kind of a quick way to get to that. And then we've got scores, so you can compare your benchmarking scores to other people's systems and configurations. And then let's see, GPU Tweak 3. Click on that, it takes you to the GPU Tweak 3, which we will look at in a little more detail here shortly. So again, for Mark ROG, nice little tool. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the product page. This is the main home page for the 5070 12 gigabyte overclock edition, which is what this is. List price is $739.99. If you want to go out and try to find one of these, I know stock has been in short supply. It's a bit more than the Founders Edition card, but good luck finding a Founders Edition card, even if you wanted to go that route. So your options are pretty much limited to cards like this. Anyway, this is the overclock mode, so we go from 2610 to 2640. And again, any little bit certainly helps. But this page here sort of walks through all of the information for this card. Pretty much anything you want to know about it, ASUS has posted. Just a ton of information, so it's kind of nice to scroll through here and sort of take it all in. But it does go into a lot of details, and it's pretty much the stuff we saw in the box, just fleshed out a bit more here. There's the GPU Tweak 3. We'll look at that here in a minute. It's got a nice power supply calculator, so you can make sure you match up the right power supply with the right system and the graphics card that you'll be using. So this really, like I said, takes a deep dive into all the information. Okay, and we're going to take a quick look at the ASUS GPU Tweak 3. This is a nice frequently asked questions page on the ASUS website. I'll post the link in the description. But if you really seriously want to learn how to use, oops, let me switch to the US website, the GPU Tweak 3, you can go here and sort of skim through it, and there's a lot of good, useful information that sort of shows you what everything is and how it works. And there are other sources and videos online too, but this is a really good starting point to become familiar with and much better at using the ASUS GPU Tweak 3. And here we have the GPU Tweak 3. This is a really useful tool for monitoring what's going on with your card as well as making a few tweaks. Of course, tweak is right there in the name. Looking at what's going on here, here's the little home icon. You click on that. You've got default mode, overclock mode. You can see it bumps things up a little compared to default. Silent mode, which kind of keeps things a little quieter, keeps the heat from being generated, keeps your fans quiet. You've got a 0 decibel fan over here. These things are nice, although I gotta say, I haven't really heard that much fan noise out of this card, especially when it's in a case. I just don't know that it's going to be that big of a deal. We've got user mode, and any of these here, for example, go back to overclock. You can click the little pencil icon down here on your fan speeds, and you can adjust your fan curves, which I really like. So if you want your fans to come on a little earlier, or if you want your fans to not come on until things get good and toasty, you can do that. And you can save whatever your profile changes you make. But this is really useful over here. Your on-screen display, you can select what shows up in your on-screen display. Let's see, you can fire up Armory Crate, Furmark, which I actually have over here on the left already going. Let's see, Overclock Scanner. This kind of does the same thing that NVIDIA app, little performance tuning does right there. I did do this yesterday, fired it up, and it took close to an hour. It says 30 minutes right here, but it took a lot longer than 30 minutes for me at least. And let's see, over here on the left, we've got line view, column view. I kind of like the graphical representation of what's going on a little better than just seeing the numbers, but that's just me. Got mobile view. If you want to do this on a mobile device, you can do that too. So great little tool, very useful. Okay, this slide here shows the test system. I'm using an MSI Z890 Ace motherboard. CPU is an Intel Core Ultra 9 285K running at 5.4 gigahertz. CPU cooler is also an MSI unit, Mag Core Liquid i360. GPU is, of course, the ASUS TUF Gaming NVIDIA RTX 5070 Overclock Edition. And then I got 48 gigabytes of Kingston DDR5 Fury Renegade, Solidigm SSD for my operating system, and we're running Windows 11 Pro. And then for benchmarking, I've got some synthetic benchmarks and some gaming benchmarks. The synthetic, I use Blender 3D Mark, which is pretty much a standard, and then V-Ray 6.0. And for gaming, I've got my good old standard favorite Borderlands 3. Then we've got Marvel Rivals, Cyberpunk 2077, and Star Wars Outlaws. The monitor I'm using is a 3440 by 1440, running at 144 Hertz. Okay, benchmarks. Let's take a quick look here. Right here in blue is the ASUS RTX 5070 overclock. I've got it compared to the 5070 just to the left, the Founders Edition. And you can see there's the 4070 from last year. And then towards the right, we've got a 5080 and a 5090. Of course, those cards are going to perform at a much higher level. But if we're just looking at the center column here, the ASUS 5070 overclock, you can see how it performs. And it really scales just a notch, just a touch above the Founders Edition card. Nothing too grossly out of proportion here. Things are just a tick higher, as I was expecting on all the performance measures. So Blender here, just a tick higher. 3D Mark, again, just a little bit. You can almost, some of these, it's almost within the margin of error. Let's see, we come on down to the V-Ray, again, just slightly higher. Borderlands 3, our frame rates are just a little higher there on the benchmarking. Again, that's within the margin of error, I would say. Marvel Rivals here, we get a little bigger kick on your frame rate. Come down to Cyberpunk there, we get a little bigger of a boost, and the same thing with the Star Wars Outlaws. Now, when you compare the frame rates here, again, to the 5070 Founders Edition, unfortunately, I don't have a 5070 Ti to sort of sandwich in between here, between the 5080 and the 5070. So I don't have those numbers to compare, but who knows, maybe I'll end up with one of those cards and I can get those numbers in here too. Okay, so while I was wrapping up the benchmarking, the synthetic and the gaming benchmarks for this card using my old Viotech 3440 by 1440 34-inch widescreen curved monitor. This has been my workhorse for a long time. Another monitor showed up. So this is the plastic covering from that monitor, which is right here. This is the first 4K monitor that I've had a chance to get my hands on. So I'm going back and doing some benchmarks with it. Now I don't have time to pull out all of the GPUs and do the comparison just yet, but moving forward, this will be the monitor that I use. I'm starting to go back and redo my benchmarking again with this monitor. So this is from MSI. It is a 4K 3840 by 2160, so it will put a considerably larger load on the graphics card. But it's the MAG 321UP QD OLED gaming monitor. First time I've had an experience with an OLED monitor too, so I'll be reviewing that separately. But anyway, my benchmarking is going to take a little different direction from this point forward. And here are the benchmarks now with the 4K monitor, and I colored those green text. And this is my older 3440 by 1440, and this is 3840 by 2160 4K. So the goal here is to show the difference between the two monitors. Our synthetic benchmarks, our numbers are very similar. There's not much difference for the most part. There is a little bit, but we get down into the gaming. Of course, this is with the settings cranked all the way up. You can see that we're struggling a little bit more here because we're pushing so many more pixels with the 4K compared to the older monitor. And an easy fix for that is we just change the settings and reduce some of the settings from ultra to high, for example, and then we can get the frame rates up. Although these are not terrible, we're still playable for the most part on these games, especially when we have our DLSS on. We're able to keep some pretty good frame rates. Okay, so overall, I like this card. The performance places it right there below the 5070 Ti. Of course, if I had a 5070 Ti, I could show that, but I believe this is going to be I should say, between the 5070 Ti and the 5060 Ti. Similar to the performance we saw on the 40 series cards. The 5070, again, is set to be at a price point and a performance point to fit right in between those other two cards to give you some options. Now, right now, the pricing, it's kind of amazing. It's $500 and let's see here, $549 right now on Amazon. The price has really dropped. The list price was $739, which you could argue is a little salty. But like I always say, go ahead and try to find these cards out there. They sell out shortly after they get them in stock, it seems, especially the Founders Edition cards. So your other options are to go with used cards, and those are hard to get to, and of course pricing isn't a whole lot better on those. There are good deals out there, but they're often difficult to find. So again, right now on Amazon, the pricing looks pretty good. Is that in anticipation of them dropping another card? It's hard to say. We'll just have to wait and see. So when I look at the gameplay, frames per second, when you look at the additional features that NVIDIA has, especially with the 50 series cards, the gameplay is smooth. Again, depending upon the tier that you're in, whether it's a 5090, 5080, you can adjust the settings on your games to get the best performance, and from what I've seen, it all looks pretty good. Even on this 4K monitor, you do have to back a few of the settings down depending upon the games, but gameplay overall is very nice and very smooth. So it really comes down to, can you justify the additional cost for the Overclock Edition? Yeah, you get a little more performance, but you might just put a little more money into a 5070 Ti if you're going to go up the ladder a little bit. So, like I said, I really like the card. Performance, pricing now is better. I would give this the Overclockers Club Gold Award. So this is Chris with Overclockers Club. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.